Okay, welcome everybody. This is David Thompson, Head of Innovation Projects for Aviva. Um, this is a short video demonstration of one of our OpenVR applications, or prototype applications. As you can see, just at the beginning there, this is a multiplayer application. It's been designed as multi-user from the ground up. And I'm going to give you a very short tour of some of the functionality. So the very important thing is that this application has been designed with the touch controllers or the HTC Vive controllers in mind, which essentially give us hands in VR, as you can see here. And we're going to do various things with these buttons. You can see me pressing down the buttons on the controller, tracked extremely accurately in the VR world. So we've been, first of all, experimenting with different user interface paradigms. I'm going to pick here actually traditional user interface. And excuse me for looking around there. As you will see now, I now have this kind of huge iPad, which I'm going to use as my interface. I'm going to scale it down to about this size. And as you can see, I can grab this, turn it around with my hand. It'll stay on my hand if I want it to, or I can position it somewhere convenient and let go, and it'll simply float there. With the right hand, I can point at things by pressing this joystick down into the controller. You might be able to see that, maybe pressing it down. And I get the laser pointer, and then with the trigger, I can select various functionality. So the first thing I'm going to do is turn myself around using the X and the Y button, because the Oculus only tracks from the front, unlike the HTC Vive. So now you can see our so-called decision support holodeck. This is a large room about the size of an aircraft hangar, and I have our scaled model in here. As I said, we've been experimenting with user interfaces. We also have the power wheel here, and on the power wheel are the most commonly used functions. So I'm going to press this joystick down, click it in whilst looking at this house symbol, and you see I get my user interface back on my hand. So the first functionality I'm going to show you is the adjust model functionality. So with this nice hand controller, I can scale the model. It's almost full size. I don't know, this probably looks about 20 sort of 5, maybe 30 meters across at that scale. And if I go down to the smallest scale, and then raise it up a little bit with this slider, I have a model which, when I get closer to it, is about 5 meters long. So again, I'm going to use my power wheel, teleport, and then with the right hand controller, I can simply move my camera or where I am virtually around in the model using this teleport functionality. We use the teleport functionality because this is the best way to avoid motion sickness. So as long as you're moving your own head in a natural way, you won't get any kind of motion sickness. It's when we fly through the model that most people get motion sickness. But you can see here, I can put my head right into the model, see the details. I'm trying to move very smoothly just now, because when you watch this on a normal screen, it can be also sort of nauseating as well. So it's very important that I, as a cameraman, just now move around slowly. So you can see I can move around, stand on the model, stand within the model. It's kind of a Legoland size, and move around freely as I want. So to show you some more of the functionality, I'm going to get pretty close into the model here. I'm going to bring back my user interface, which was using the power wheel, clicking to the bottom right hand side, and I get the user interface back. It's not facing me by default. And then I'll show you some of the functionality. So the basic one we have here is measure. So I can click at any 2 points on the surface, measure down to the ground here. We can see here this is 12 meter, and this is obviously in full scale. Quite often people want to know the height of these columns. So again, this is not using any kind of event points, but you can see here that's a 35-meter high column, which we'll get to experience later in full scale. We have functionality for clipping, and this is really an axis system which I can grab with my hand using the trigger, and it will clip through the model nicely there, as you can see. I'm actually going to use this for the next part of the demo. completely get rid of that part, I think, and then move this clipping over something like that, perhaps just about right. The next functionality I want to show you is really great for these hand controls is a 3D markup. So I do have the possibility to change color on the Vive, but on the Oculus today, I just have the ability to draw. And now the scenario that I'd like you to imagine is that I as a instructor or a subject matter expert want to show somebody how to get to a particular place in the model. So I'm going to draw them a 3D map. So I just put my hand controller in here and I start to draw. And I'm going to say, well, I want you to come along here to the base of this ladder, climb up the ladder, and then go along here to the third valve. I'm going to just highlight here by drawing some squiggles around it. So 3D markup is very useful functionality. It's very intuitive just to draw through the 3D space. I think we're going to add some kind of snapping to it to make it more easy to use. Now, of course, the interesting thing is after you've done some kind of planning, imagine there are, again, multiple users in here, and even users who are not using VR, there's the possibility to have essentially a camera, is how I imagine it, that's looking into the scene. And that will represent somebody who's using a normal desktop with a screen and not using a VR headset. So we've got this idea to combine VR and non-VR users together. But the VR users get this really amazing functionality and ability to go into full scale. I'm going to show you how good this is for engineering. So I'm now in full scale. Unfortunately, I'm floating above here, which can be a little bit unnerving. For those of you who've not tried it, I'm going to turn around and head towards my area where I've drawn the various things in here. I'm going to go to teleport mode, go down on the ground, and now I feel kind of grounded. I feel quite normal in the model. To show you the kind of power of VR, and hopefully this works quite nicely, I'm going to come up here and look at this concrete plinth that the pump's standing on. Now, I think this, from using my senses of perception in VR, I think this is maybe two and a little bit meters. And that's the sense that we have in the real world, is this ability to kind of gauge things. So I'm going to go and bring up my iPad functionality, my traditional interface, and I'm going to do a measurement here, and we get to see how accurate I am when I do this. Okay, so 1.95 meter. This has been a live test. I haven't rehearsed this, I promise. So we can see this is the power of VR. I can use my natural senses to figure out where things are, how big things are. I get all of these signals to me through the parallax of moving through this 3D world. Okay, I'm going to now go back over to where we started to draw this line. I'm going to turn off my clipping. So clipping is deactivated. I'm going to leave the iPad here, go back to teleport, and then turn around, ready for my scenario. So we can see here this 3D line, and this is where we perhaps need this orthogonal snapping, because it's been drawn at a very different scale. It's a little bit rough, but now I can walk through the scenario. So I'm going to follow this line, more or less. This is the safest way to go to this particular place, get to the bottom of the ladder. We do actually have a capability to climb this ladder in VR using the hand controls, and that gives a really good sense of immersion. But in this case, it's deactivated in this version, so I'm going to have to teleport up, saving me all of that climbing effort. Of course, I can look down here, really get a good sense of, okay, is this handrail at the right size for me to stop myself from falling down there? There probably should be a chain in real life. The controllers are actually haptic, so when I touch something like this in the virtual world, they will give me a little vibration to tell me that I'm touching things. And then, as you can see here by my squiggles, I'm at the valve which needs to be shut down for this particular scenario. So I hope that gives you a nice introduction to the potential of VR, especially with hand controllers. And that's it from me.